Movie quality animation, a term that's as misleading as it's meaningless. It's common for us fans to look at a well-animated scene and go, this is a movie, and there's some truth to that. TV anime clearly has its limitations, and the understanding is that movies can bypass a lot of those issues. But how true is that given the current circumstances of the anime industry? Well, let's talk about movie quality animation, whatever that means. I hope this video ends up being informative, especially to all you Bleach fans out there. So, movie quality is quite an ambiguous term. The definition of it is quite arbitrary. Still, I tried to define it through these 5 points. Of course, these are ideals, and as you'll see, many of these points don't really apply anymore. In general, a movie contains the following: more movement, more drawing power, grander, more ambitious staging, complicated dense layouts, and a higher level of polish across all departments. Movement and drawing power are self-explanatory. The drawing quality is supposed to be higher, and the amount of movement is supposed to be more, aka a movie should have more and better looking 2D animation compared to a TV anime. A movie usually doesn't take any shortcuts. A TV cut might consist of a static mouth flap, but a similar cut from a movie might feature a bit of character acting. Maybe the hair bounces a little, maybe the eyes move more, you get the idea. You expect movies to not take any shortcuts. A TV anime might use stock backgrounds, but a movie might feature background animation or a 3D background. Movies also tend to have more elaborate staging, especially during action scenes, with grander storyboards, more moving components, and a larger scale. This also ties into our 4th point. Movies usually have denser and more complicated layouts. Scenes have more layers, more information is packed into a screen. The compositions might be more unique. Even the backgrounds might have multiple layers, leading to a dynamic parallax effect. To sum up the previous 2 points into a single sentence, movies look more complicated. The scenes have more depth and volume. And finally, we have polish. And this applies to every single department, not just the animation. Whether it's the art direction or the compositing, you just expect all of it to be more polished, be more deliberate, be more well put together. That's my definition of movie quality animation. You can check if your favorite shows meet these criteria. Bleach, for example, featured pretty drawings and the occasionally complex layout, but the amount of movement was very little. Plenty of simple basic shots were present and the polish wasn't there. The color design and the compositing left a lot to be desired. Chainsaw had all of those factors near the start, but the quality deteriorated by the final third. Basically, it's near impossible for TV shows to maintain movie quality animation for the entirety of its runtime. So why is there a difference between movies and TV shows? How can movies pull all of those things off? What changes? Is it the availability of talent, time, budget? Well, yes, and no, kinda. The biggest advantage that movies have is their runtime, which is usually a lot less than a TV anime. Less stuff to animate means more care can be put into every single scene. Besides that, movies have a reputation. You see, the term movie quality animation didn't just spawn out of thin air. There is an industry-wide understanding that movies are supposed to look better. Animators and directors working on movies are expected to go above and beyond. Even the paper cut for movies is more than TV shows. You can almost make a decent living off of anime movies. Almost. Movies are also more profitable off the gate, and for that reason, producers are more likely to offer movies with favorable conditions. And of course, movies have access to higher level talent. There are plenty of noteworthy animators and directors who work almost exclusively on movies, and because of these reasons, movies flourish where TV animes struggle. Anime movies look excellent without exception, and everyone lived happily ever after. The end. Except the video isn't over, is it? I wonder why. Surely the anime industry didn't mess up this delicate balance, did they? They did. They they did. The modern anime industry is home to a phenomena that I like to call the TV animification of movies and the movification of TV anime. So I don't know if you know this, but the anime industry isn't the nicest place in the world. It has problems. Shows with a high degree of movement resonates with the newer audience. This is especially true for flashy movement. I don't think most people have the eyes to appreciate subtle volumetric character animation, but they can appreciate large quantities of effects and flashy over-the-top action. This leads to a snowball effect wherein producers scramble to create the next big sakuga-heavy show. Projects where every single episode looks movie quality instead of a few specialized ones. The sheer number of high-profile projects that have come out this decade is mind-boggling. We had Chainsawman, Mob Psycho and Butchie the Rock airing in the same season, in the same 3 months. The same talent that makes these shows is of course limited. For example, animator Yoshihiro Kanno was a central figure for Bleach TYBW Core 1. He was one of the only consistent sources of animation prowess. He, however, did nothing for Core 2 because he had moved on to Solo Leveling, another project he was heavily involved with. Stuff like that is extremely common and takes name talent away from smaller shows. This pursuit of movie quality animation is therefore detrimental to the industry. Thankfully, this year is looking better comparatively. We've had good looking shows, but most of them had their own isolated teams and didn't need to scramble to hire from a limited pool of named talent. Everything else is still in trouble, but we don't need to talk about that. Movies have their own problems as well. Of course they do. Producers are more than willing to exploit release formats. They shamelessly exploited the concept of a split-core release, and they shamelessly exploited the concept of anime movies. I just talked about the TV anime sector and its never-ending quest to find time and talent. Well, movies are no different. Even major directors often need to cut corners because of a lack of time and talent. Makoto Shinkai, for example, Your Name was his best in terms of visuals because it had all the talent it could possibly need. Back when it was in its pre-production phase, Studio Ghibli temporarily halted operations and Ghibli-affiliated talent dispersed all across the industry. Many of them gravitated towards Your Name, which then attracted even more talent. This wasn't the case with Weathering with You and Suzume. This talent had moved on to other projects, including the most recent Ghibli film, forcing Shinkai to tone things down and use certain shortcuts such as CGI crowds. TV shows using 3D mobs isn't surprising whatsoever, but it's a Shinkai movie, come on. A similar thing happened with Mari Okada's filmography. Makia looked breathtaking, but Maboroshi wasn't that good. It was great, but comparatively speaking, all of these movies looked phenomenal, but not quite as good as what you would expect from their creators. Of course, if major productions like these suffer, smaller projects are in serious trouble. There are plenty of movies that are effectively glorified TV episodes. The new Blue Lock movie is one of the most egregious examples of this. Now, this is a bit unfair. I'm basing my opinion off of the trailers, but come on, I couldn't spot a single impressive cut of animation. You're just doing the bare minimum at that point. And speaking of doing the bare minimum, Jujutsu Kaisen 0. It's a good movie in a vacuum. It's a lot more consistent and polished compared to season 1. However, it's significantly more tame. If I had to make a list of the top 20 most impressive sequences of animation from Jujutsu Kaisen, none of them would be from the movie, and that's the problem. Instead of movies being a creative haven where talent can show off their animation chops, they are now a method for projects to keep existing. Look at the quintessential quintuplets movie or the Bunny Girl Senpai flick. What were they? Why were they movies? It really is unfortunate, although again, this year is looking better for both sequel/spin-off films and original works. We had the Haikyuu movie technically last year, but who cares? I watched it in the theaters and it looked incredible. incredible. We have the My Hero Academia movie, which is shaping up to be the best looking MHA film, and that's saying something. We have Look Back, which is shaping up to be one of the best looking films, period, and that's saying something. Naoko Yamada's The Colors Within looks quite promising as well. You heard it here first, boys. 2024 will fix every single issue in the anime industry. It's all smooth sailing from here on out. Jokes aside, that's movie quality animation, a term that used to mean something but is gradually losing its meaning with time. The medium of anime movies is a shell of what it used to be. That, unfortunately, is about it. Like the video? Check out this other bit of content on screen, like and subscribe, and until next time.